Welcome all. Welcome to the webinar. This is we're going to be talking about we're going to be talking about things that you want to be talking about. I'm going to give you some like topics, and I'm going to let you throw some questions in the chat box. But hi and welcome, and let's talk about this college application process. And feel free to keep throwing ideas and thoughts in the chat box. I'm reading them. It's hard to read all of them, but I'm going to read as many as I can. Okay, so this is like my straight up Google Doc outline. And the reason I like sharing these is because I want folks to know I ain't fancy. And this is what we said that we would deliver on part 1, and we did that. You can watch the recording of that, which you'll already have a link to. And then here's what we're covering today. So we're going to talk about how do you create an outstanding application. This is kind of like a quick crash course. And I'm going to share with you first a timeline, a Sane college application timeline. We're going to talk about core values. We talked a little bit about that last time. I'm going to touch on that briefly because it's so important to this process. I'm going to name what some of the other essential parts of your college application are and tell you why I think they're important. I'm going to talk to you about how to create a great activities list, which is like your resume or brag sheet. The additional info section, which for some students is kind of like the mysterious section, like what the heck do I put here? We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about how do you address COVID in your application. I should have done this in all caps. I didn't know anybody was going to be looking at this. COVID-19 in your application. Should you talk about it in your personal statement or not? We'll talk about that. I'm going to talk to you very briefly about these upcoming courses that I have in June and July. They're pay what you can, by the way. And then we'll do Q&A. But we're going to do Q&A kind of throughout. So what I'd love for you to do is in the chat box, let me know which are the things that you feel, Mariana, I've thought about starting a TikTok account, but it's just so much work. Like I hear you have to post every day on TikTok. And I would have to that just seems like so much work. But what I am going to do, quick plug, is be posting on YouTube starting next week. I haven't released this yet, but starting next week, I'm going to be posting weekly on my YouTube. So that's where, and I've already recorded a bunch of videos. I'm going to record a ton more. But Ashley, who's my support standing by, if you'll throw in our YouTube link, that would be super awesome because I'd love for y'all to follow me on YouTube because you'll have all kinds of things. So if you'd like me to be on TikTok, follow me on YouTube. And here's why too, because these things that I want to explain to you take longer than like 30 seconds because TikTok is like super quick and it needs to be super visual. And the things that I need to explain to you are going to take usually longer than 30 seconds. So hit like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But if you've got specific things, the things that I just mentioned that you really want to make sure that I touch on, feel free to throw them in the chat box and we'll make sure we get to them. So let's talk about a Sane college application timeline. What does that look like? We actually just put a resource out on this just recently. So I'm going to reshare my screen. Here we go. So, okay. So here's your Sane college application timeline. And we'll follow up with this in the links after this session. So don't worry. I like that this is like, it's like almost Pride Month. So I like that the College Express is like just very colorful, the little thing here. Okay, so this is for 9th graders. I'm not gonna go through all these moments here, but this basically walks you through 10th graders. Probably most of you who are on this session right now are 11th graders. And it's, by the way, getting into spring. And so here are some things to be thinking about. And there are some, links for each of these places. The main thing though, that if you're a junior that I think you should be working on is building your college list. Okay, because that's the thing that, that's going to take you a while to figure out all the schools you're applying to. Okay, I'm going to do another webinar coming up. We're going to have a college fair in about a month. So stay on, make sure you're on the newsletter, but we're going to do a college fair. And at the start of the college fair, I'm going to share with you, like we're going to spend in an hour how to develop your college list. And then I'm going to show you how you can use a college fair to help develop your list. So that's sort of the main thing that I want y'all to be thinking about. And some of the pre-work, if you want to do it, is in this thing here. So actually, let me just throw this in real quick. You can keep this link for later, bookmark it. It's a really good one. I'll throw it into the juniors represent. I'll throw it into the chat box. So if you're a junior, that's the thing to be focused on right now. If you're a 9th grader, 10th grader, welcome. Congrats on being super motivated and starting early. I love it. And then for the summer, just looking ahead a little bit about things to be thinking about. Figuring out what you want to do this summer. Do you want to read? Do you want to just hang out? Do you want to spend some time doing research? Like what are the things that you care about and how can you pursue them? We've got a ton of guidance in this summer experiences post. I'm not going to put all the links in because then everybody's going to be like all over link crazy. So don't worry. We're going to follow up with this college application timeline in the follow-up email. But again, developing your college list over the summer is going to be super important. doing your research, making sure that you're on college's radar in terms of the places that you're interested in. Some schools track something called demonstrated interest, which is like, why do you want to go to a particular school? It's basically tracking, letting a school know that you're interested in them by like signing up for their email list and like doing a virtual tour, their info sessions. There's a lot more in that you can find if you just Google demonstrated interest, college essay guy. It's also in this post. And then working on your essays. I think that's the biggest thing that you can do this summer is not just be thinking about, but actually be writing your essays. My hope for you as a junior would be that you can get through the summer with your Common App, which is like the application that you're going to use probably for most of the private schools you're applying to. You can get your personal statement done, get your activities list and additional info done, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. And ideally, you get started on your essays for some of your early, most excited about school. So if you end up applying early decision or early action, I think making sure that you've gotten those essays started, maybe finished, but at least started over the summer is a really, really good idea. So just to situate things, like plan to finish, if you can, your personal statement over the summer, because you're going to be crazed in the fall. I can't tell you at this point how busy things are going to be. It's the most, I don't want to scare you, but I want to scare you a little bit that it's just going to be, you're going to have the most extracurricular activities. It's probably going to be back in person, your biggest course load, all kinds of shifts happening. The more that you can kind of get done for the college process over the summer, the better. So just putting in a quick word for that. I probably sound like your counselor right now, if so, I apologize. Or you could be like, oh yeah, Ethan said that too. The other thing that I want to flash for y'all, and this is only for the 4% of counselors who are here, but I put together this list of email templates for college counselors. And I know you're like, why are you sharing this with me, Ethan? I'm not a college counselor. But this is what we put together these over the last couple months. These are the emails. And I don't know if your counselor sends you monthly or weekly emails, but if I was a counselor, here's what I would be sending you basically each month. So you can basically go to like your grade. So like right now it's May, and let's say you're in 11th grade, click there. And that's what I would recommend to be working on. Okay. So that link is going to take you to whatever you need to be focused on. Look, if an anonymous rabbit hopped onto the doc, and this is going to apply for like whatever grade you're in and whatever month. Okay. And shout out to Erica Copland on my team who helped put these together, and to all the counselors who contributed to these. But these are basically just open source docs. You can, if you want, share this with your counselor and be like, hey, look what college, no, because then they're going to think that you're telling them how to do their job. Don't do that. But like, yeah, when it comes to December and you're in 10th grade, you click on that and it's like, here are some of the things that I need to be thinking about. Okay. So there's that. Ooh, Ava's got a question about demonstrated interest. Maybe I'll get to it here in just a few minutes. Okay, so that's your Sane college application timeline. Check it off a list. Okay, so let's talk about finding our core values. So the exercise that I went over last time, values exercise, college essay guy, you can Google it. Here's this list of values. You can get the printable, the PDF version. The reason I come back to this so much, y'all, is that part of what you're trying to demonstrate in your college application is what are your core values? What do you care about most? And they're going to be different for everybody. And more importantly, they're going to manifest themselves differently for everybody. So one of the things we talked about on the last session was if your core values are, culture and the environment and music, well, the question is, how do those actually manifest themselves in your personal statement? That's what we talked about on Tuesday. But this exercise is really useful for thinking about your application as a whole. Okay. So once you do this values exercise, and what it is simply take that list, which I just pasted. And again, we'll follow up with all the resources, and thinking for yourself, okay, what are the main values that I want to demonstrate in my application? Is it, for me, it would be like, and whether I was 17 or now, it would be like creativity would be a big one. I would want to do something around connection, because that's so important to me. And it was important to me in high school, creativity, connection. I'm just going to pick one more. And I don't know if this is a value. You know what? Communication, language, something around language, because I was really into language and I'm really into it now. So creativity, language, and what was the other one I said? Actually, I'm going to add one. I'm going to change one out. I'm going to go adaptability, because I think that would show a cool quality. And so if I'm going to go with creativity and language and adaptability, how could those values manifest themselves in my application? Well, it could be through my personal statement. And I write about ways that my creativity expresses itself, right? Or one of the 7 montage paths that I mentioned on Tuesday. But you don't have to pack everything into your personal statement, because if I am creative and I am adaptable and I love language, it could be that those values manifest themselves in, for example, my activities list, which is, what is the activities list? It's basically, and I'll show you an example in just a second. It's, you have space in the Common App for 10 different activities that you're going to do. And you get these really short 150 character descriptions for each activity. And 150 characters is like a tweet. The tweets got longer, but it's basically like this long. You have like a sentence, and you don't have to write in complete sentences. But sometimes students feel like they have to pack absolutely everything into their personal statement, but it's just not true, y'all. It's just not true. There's so many ways to pack in all of your awesomeness into your activities list. So I'm going to do the thing that I always do when I try to find a thing. I'm just going to Google it. And I'm literally Googling activities list college essay guy. And I should just show you that I'm doing this so that you know how easy it is to find these resources. Here we go. So here are 80 plus extracurricular activity examples. And I want to show you some and show you why it's important to up-level them. And I think this is a really underutilized space in the application. I think students oftentimes will just kind of jump into their activities list and they'll write something like art. And it's like, okay, yeah, but could you get more specific? And then their description will be like created art pieces and organized school club. And it's like, okay, I kind of get a sense of what you did, but with just like 5 minutes, you can up-level that description to something like founder of Art Honor Society. And it's like, oh, you were a founder? Well, thanks for letting me know, right? Art Honor Society. Okay, that gives me a sense that there was like a club and there was other people doing it. And then check out this description here, and then I want to analyze it. Organized and ran meetings, set up field trips, brainstormed and created group art activities, wrote and sent newsletter to members. Okay, this is the same activity. These are just two different ways of describing it. And which one of these is gonna be more likely to give the reader more information about the skill, qualities, values, and interests that you're bringing to a college campus? Hello, right? Hello, who's that? Is that John Lovitz or something? I don't know who used to say that. But check out this description, y'all. And so here are the quick tips for your activities list. When you're describing your activity, number one, I want you to think about active verbs. Check out the verbs here. Here we've got created and organized. Okay, cool. And we've got organized, but also ran the meetings. So what value does that show us? Beyond just organizing the meetings, some leadership, hashtag leadership. Set up the field trips. Okay, cool. So you had some responsibility for like, and this kind of repeats organizing, but that's okay. Brainstormed. Okay, now we've got some creativity. Created group art activities, wrote and sent newsletter to members. Okay, there's a wide range of responsibilities in here, which just gives me a much wider sense of all the awesome things that you have done. By the way, I don't know, can we make my little tiny screen larger, Ashley? See if we can. If so, great. If not, it is what it is. I'll just be tiny here in the corner. So again, active verbs, the first thing I want to emphasize here. The second thing that you can look at is, like I just referenced earlier, what are the values that you're revealing? So in this description, I see, yeah, created and organized, cool. But here I see some leadership. I see, some responsibility, right? Wrote and sent newsletter. Oh, that tells me you got some writing skills. So beyond the art, just art, creating stuff, there's all this other stuff, right, that you've done. So those are two tips for the activities list that if you just apply those two tips, it's going to up-level your activity. And I'm not talking about spending like an hour on each description. I'm talking about spending like 5 to 10 minutes on each description. Okay. Another thing that you can do is emphasizing tangible, measurable impact. So what do I mean by this? When by tangible, measurable impact, I'm talking about if you change something, like what did you change? Like how many people did you impact? Right. So let me see if I can find an example in here. Usually I look for numbers. Let's see, but let me see if I'm not know if I'm finding a bunch of them here. Let's see. Sorry, should have totally had this prepped. I mean, this is actually a good example of like context. So British English Olympics preparation, opt-in after-school training offered for Raleigh high school students. So 8 months intensive preparation. Okay, well that gives me some context for like, what this actually was. Here's another example. For Visions Literary Arts Magazine, I lead the team in creating an annual 80-page publication. Knowing that it's 80 pages long are numbers that give a sense of, okay, context. How important, how big was this? When I'm talking about impact, I'm talking about if you raised money for somebody, how much money did you raise? Who were you raising the money for? So context, numbers can help us give context and help us give a sense of who was impacted and how much they were impacted. So for the entire student body of, 2,000 students or whatever it is. All right. So those are my quick extracurricular activity tips. What else? Additional info. Okay, so the additional info section is sometimes kind of a mysterious section. Students are like, well, what do I put in here? So I'm just gonna like list some different things you can potentially put here. One of the big things that students, and by the way, let me show you what this looks like. And again, we'll follow up with all these links, but I just want to kind of give you the crash course. This is in your Common App. You're going to see a section that says additional information. Do you wish to provide details? You're going to say yes or no. You don't have to put anything here, but this can be a cool opportunity. So what are some things that you can put here? I'm not going to I'm going to just share my face and I'll just rattle off some of these, but like if there's something that didn't fit in your activities list. So like, let's say you are the Art Honors Society queen and you have like so many different things. And you're like, all of my awesomeness does not fit into this 150 character thing. I don't want to be boxed in by this. You can selectively use your additional info to just in bullet points, just expand on what you've done. And again, I want to emphasize active verbs are super important. And you can just quickly be like, oh, and by the way, there was also this. And if there's like an additional award that you won that didn't fit in the awards section, you can add that in. But just be super brief here, because when you get into the additional info section, you're kind of on, they better be important, Sometimes students have health issues that they've faced. Maybe they missed some school. Maybe they had a family member who was sick and they had to take some time away, or it impacted their grades. That's the kind of stuff that can go in there. Very briefly, what was the challenge you faced? What did you do about it? Actually, let's go challenge and effects. How did it impact you? So, I had back surgery. I was out for 3 months. I was not even able to get out of bed for a month and a half. As a result, I missed this much school. Here's what I did about it. I worked hard to make up all my classes and I earned, a 3.6 GPA. And here's the impact, but what I learned from it is this. And you can just be really straightforward and bullet pointy in that section. If you've got any red flags on your application, which is like stuff that you feel like, oh, I should probably explain why I got that C- in that particular class, put it in here. Don't make your whole personal statement about this one bad grade you got. Don't waste your time and energy there. Put it in your additional info so that it's like, it's handled. And then you can just talk about whatever awesome things you want to talk about in your personal statement. What else? Let me rattle some more off. If physical or learning disabilities or differences, you can put those in there. If you've been diagnosed with ADHD, you don't have to make your whole essay about what it's like living with ADHD, although you could, that could be something that you want to focus on. Or you can just put in your additional info and say, here's some challenges that I faced, the impacts on me, what I've done, what I've learned. Okay, so that could go in your additional info. Again, what we're trying to do is clear space for your personal statement so you can be your, all of the awesome sides of who you are. So you don't feel like you're defined by like one particular thing. Some other things, if your school has like a weird grading system, that's the kind of thing that could go there. If you took any classes that you feel like need explaining, like you have your school works in a particular way, put that there. If you're in an IB program and you want to put like your extended essay topic, you can do like a little short description of that. That could totally go there. And then just like, acronyms, if there's something that you feel like, oh, I wish I need to explain what, CSF is. They're going to know what, like AP is, and they're going to know what IB stands for, but some other things they might not. So if you're not sure that they'll know, just put that in your additional info. Some misuses. I wouldn't put, if you can't decide between your personal statements and you've got two ideas and you're like, I'll just put this one here and I'll put the other one in my additional info. Like I wouldn't do that, because if they wanted a second personal statement, they would ask for it. And some schools do have these supplemental essays, which we'll get into just briefly here in a few minutes. But here I would keep it. I would use the word information, take them seriously, and include information. I wouldn't include things that are like a resume, for example. If they haven't asked for a resume, don't just put like, oh, and here's also my resume. Some schools will ask for it, but keep it to the informational for the additional info section. Any questions? Let's see. Can the additional info be in bullet points? Totally. Yes. Is my school's art focus 4 hours of art each day and no clubs? That would go there. Totally. A bad SAT or ACT section score? I mean, if you're going to submit, you don't maybe have to submit your SAT scores. Are we talking about the activities list or personal statement? No, we talked about the personal statement on Tuesday. I already talked about the activities list. Now I'm talking about the additional information section, which is the section of the Common App. That is where you put the extra stuff. Let's jam on COVID for a few minutes. Sometimes students are like, like recently students are like, I feel like I should write about COVID because it's such a huge impact. Well, good news. The Common App has a section specifically for COVID related details. Okay. So if you've been impacted by the pandemic, and by the way, who hasn't been impacted by the pandemic, there's a specific section. It's 250 words long, and they ask, what have been the impacts on you? Now, there are two ways to go about this, I think. You're either writing about challenges that you faced. Again, what were the effects? What did you do about it? What did you learn? Right? Challenges, what I did about it, what I learned. And you can do that in bullet points. You can totally do bullet points for your COVID additional info section. Paragraphs are fine. Bullet points are fine. Or if you want, you can go ahead and do the values exercise. You could like pick 2 or 3 values that you've connected with more deeply since the pandemic started. So like, let's say you've like become more committed to your health and you've been like working out for the first time ever. And so you could write about that, a few sentences on my commitment to my health. And it's manifested through, I've been doing weight training and I've been, walking a mile a day with my dog. So that you got the little health paragraph or bullet points. And then you could do a second little paragraph on, I've also found new ways to connect. So value of connection. And even though I couldn't see my friends in person, we developed this Discord group and we are meeting weekly or nightly to, whatever it is. And it's, what are the values? Like it's helped me stay connected to them. It's helped me, and you can kind of fill it in. Again, using that values exercise. It's helped me become more creative. It's helped me develop some leadership skills. So there's challenges-based COVID section, challenge, impact on me, what I did about it and what I learned, the experience, or montage, jump around and give me some different, I'm doing like this little dance, jump around and give me some little details of some values that you've experienced and how have you specifically connected with those. Either of those can work. I've seen some like really awesome, let me just give you a quick example of one. There's a student who signed up for my Matchlighters program by the way, quick plug for the Matchlighters program. If you identify as low income, and you would like free essay or application help, we've got a program for you, and I'm going to put it in the chat box. I guess I could have had you link it, Ashley, but here it is. So this is the Matchlighters program. It's for students who identify as low income, and we're here to help. We've got 600 counselors that are standing by. Let me give you a quick example, though. This is a student who created a really nice. I'll just show you her screen because it's okay if I share her name. Her name is Jacqueline, and I have her permission to share this. So here's a quick one. So, my family was thrown into a world of online learning and social distancing without adequate resources, especially coming from a marginalized community. Challenges, challenges, challenges. My family had 1 laptop to use between my 3 siblings and me, a little detail. My zip code was the epicenter of infections in Arizona. Challenge, creating panic within the community. Effect. My older sister worked at McDonald's, so we feared she'd lose her job, or worse, infect my elder abuelita, who's our guardian, with COVID-19. I experienced more impacts, mental deterioration, as isolation chewed away at my sociable personality. Pessimism surged as my leadership expedition to Alaska was canceled. To add on, teachers began retiring early, leaving myself to fend for myself educationally. So those are the challenges and the effects. What did you do about it? With time, mental health became a priority unlike ever before. Once we received loaner laptops, I worked harder than I had during the average year since I felt time slipping away. Started to live in the world of now instead of eventually. Studied, led, mentored, created. As I prepared for AP exams, I continued to mentor through the Lapin College Club, formulating new mediums to provide educational and emotional support, such as mental health trainings and relationship building activities. Notice the specific details of what she did. I formulated my own organization, Votantes para el Cambio Social, to relieve Latinx voter suppression. I might not relieve Latinx voter suppression in my community by translating a political information to Spanish. At times, I do wish we could return to a pre-pandemic era. However, life is altered and my world has been more productive value ever since. So you see that? That's a solid, challenges-based additional info section. Okay. So anyway, that's an idea. That's one example of how to do this. It's not the only way to do it. Again, you could kind of jump around with values, but those are some tips on handling that section. I think I'm going to jam through, you know what, let me do this because oftentimes what I do is I like spread out the session over like 45 minutes, but I'm actually going to I'm going to do the quick PSA for the courses that I'm leading in June and July. And then I want to devote like 30 minutes to just answering y'all's questions. Okay. So let's do that real quick. All right. So I'm teaching these courses. They are, did I mention pay what you can, which means literally any costs. That means like whatever you want to pay. Let me just tell you, I mentioned them briefly last time, but I'm doing one on the personal statement, which is like, you basically write your personal statement through the month of June. And then in July, we're going to work on this stuff, but like much more in depth. And I can get more into supplemental essays if y'all want to. So like June, we work on the personal statement. July, we work through essentially, how do you brainstorm your entire application? How do you write your activities list? I'm going to be reviewing your examples live, reviewing your essays. We'll get on session just like this. I'll look at examples, give notes, and then we'll move on to the next one. I usually end up reviewing like, at least 3 to 5 examples. So it's not everybody's that gets notes, but you learn from watching me go over other people's essays. It's going to work for pretty much all the schools you're applying to. And my hope, y'all, like I mentioned, is like getting stuff done over the summer. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to write an essay that works for many different schools, which is going to save you time and improve your essay. We're going to talk about the difference between an okay activities list and one that's really awesome. I'm going to share with you some more examples. We're going to do, this is a really important essay, the Why Us essay. I'm going to do there's a whole module just on the Why Us essay, because it can be really important for some schools if they have the why do you want to attend this college. And then I'm going to talk to you about how to write an extracurricular activity essay. So if you've got an extracurricular that you've spent a lot of time on, I don't recommend using that for your personal statement. I would recommend using it for your extracurricular activity essay, which could become potentially a super essay, which is to say one that could work for many different schools. And there are a couple different approaches to that. And then we're getting into like basically all these other kinds of supplemental essays. I've basically got a guide for pretty much every supplemental essay that you're working on. Not absolutely everyone, but pretty much all of them. And some of the questions students ask are like, what if you can't attend some days? Yeah, then just sign up and you'll just get the recordings. So you're good. Yeah, totally. Watching the recordings is awesome. And some people prefer to watch the recordings because they like to be able to fast forward and kind of jump around. So every day there's like, you'll know what the agenda is for each one. So you can kind of jump around if you want. And some people prefer to do that. Gregory's asking, how many essays do we have to write? So I shared this on Tuesday, but I'll just flash this up again. Here's something that we go over in the course. Here's a tracker for like a sample student. And this is somewhat typical. It depends on how many schools you're applying to. I would recommend applying to like 8 to 10 at least, because you want to make things are unpredictable. And so what I'm going to have you do on the course is create an essay tracker like this one, where you put a list of all the schools you're applying to. So you'll have your Common App, and then you're going to put your topics for these different prompts. So like this will be the Common App. These will be your UC application essays if you're applying to the UCs. They're called personal insight questions, I know. Then you've got, maybe if you're applying to other schools, Pomona, Claremont, Harvey Mudd, and Stanford. If you're applying to Stanford, y'all, it gets a little ridiculous. I got a whole module on the Stanford essays. And then USC. So the good news is, the bad news is, yeah, it's a lot of work. The good news is you can save yourself a heck of a lot of time by reusing your prompts. And I'll show you some examples of essays that I think did that really well. So the short answer to your question, Gregory, is so major essays, if you look at the colors, green, red, yellow, blue, these are all clearly different topics. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 6. So this is like 6 major different essays, like ones that you want to spend several drafts on. But, he had 20 different essays. Some of these were variations, like the USC and the Harvey Mudd and Redlands ones were all, variations on an essay. So it's like somewhere between 6 and 20 is I guess the short answer to your question. All right. That's the whole content that I wanted to cover with y'all. Now let's get into your questions. Okay. Ooh, that's a big one. That's a tough first one. Okay, I'm going to tackle this. It's going to take me, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to tackle this. Okay, so here's the question. I'm going to just put up the questions here so you'll see what I'm looking at. The first question here is, when you have multiple stories that you want to share, how do you write them in one essay? And I covered this briefly on last session. And the answer is coming up with what I would call a montage. And a montage is like a series of short stories, but you need a common theme that connects them all. Okay. So if, for example, you questioner whose name I don't know, your theme is, so what you want to do is you want to identify what is the common theme or thread. Is it a skill or superpower that you have? Like, do all of the stories, things that you want to share, have something to do with solving problems? And so part of the game that you're playing early on is to try and identify what is that thematic thread that's going to tie your stories together. That's the first job. The way that I think of this is like you have all these like beads that are differently magnetized. And these are like the things that you want a college to know. And what you have is like your theme or thread for your essay is like, you're going to drop it into the beads and see which ones get magnetized. And those are the ones that are going to end up as your paragraphs in your essay. I hope that's not too weird of a metaphor. So you've got this differently magnetized beads and this magnetized thread, and you're going to the thread is the theme And some threads are going to be easier for you to magnetize lots of different things than others. The exercise that we did on Tuesday was all about how to basically, how to figure out what your theme is. And so there are like 7 different options, which I'm not going to get into right now because I already talked about them. But that's the first goal. It could be the career, it could be a superpower, it could be different identities. And once you find those, that's going to help you. And sometimes you come up with the theme first, and sometimes you come up with the stories first and then find the theme later. So that's the short answer. Isabella, first timer, college, everything is very overwhelming. Is there anything I need to do as a junior without freaking myself out? Isabella, yeah, I mean, I got you. I'm here for you. This is like, so first of all, I want to say is like, you don't have to do it all right now. Okay. All you got to do right now, like that you're on this webinar is like, you are in the right place. And what I want to say is like, take these courses with me this summer. Again, they're pay what you can, which literally means anything. I don't want y'all to feel bad, like, oh, I shouldn't pay such and such. No, join me, Isabella, on this course. Spend the summer with me going through these things, and I'm going to walk you through it. Okay. Because you can do this. I mean, you got this. It's really, and especially if you've got some time to work on this over the summer, you're going to be fine. What I'm trying to do, like my whole purpose with College Essay Guy is like breaking this down into manageable chunks so that it feels doable. But also, I mean, I want you to spend time on this because I think you're going to become a more aware, awesome human being. Like this is not, for me, honestly, this is not about getting into college. What? Yes, going through this process, you will ultimately get into college. But for me, this is about how do you discover who you are, what you care about, what your superpowers are. And that's going to carry you so much far beyond college. Yes, along the way, again, I'm going to share with you a bunch of stuff that's going to help you get into a great school. Part of it begins with developing a great college list with schools you can actually get into. But like, stay with me. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I mean, I've got so much stuff to share with you, and I'm going to walk you through it. Just stay on the newsletter. What if you're doing Posse or Questbridge? Awesome, Gregory, do it. Get that work done. That's great. What if we only want to apply to UCs? So Bernie, great. I would definitely apply to the UCs, especially if you're in California, but I would and I've got a whole separate UC PIQ thing that's like a whole course dedicated specifically to the UCs that's also pay what you can. And the reason I say that every time is because I don't want folks to think like, oh, this is inaccessible stuff. Like access is one of our core values at College Essay Guy. So anything that you see on the site, like any of the courses, the resources, those are free or pay what you can. So first of all, take that course because it's going to like walk you through it, right? But if you're only applying to the UCs, I guess I would ask like, why? Like, are there other potential private schools that you could maybe get into that might even give you scholarship money? Because in some cases, students can get even more money from schools that are not the UCs. And especially, there was an article that just came out today. If you're out of state, it's going to be a lot harder to get into the UCs. And this is not me saying, therefore you should stress. They're just making more space for in-state students. But I would say expand your college list. And that resource that I shared at the top with how to develop your college list is going to be a great one. Does the timeline change if you're going to apply in July? Yes, you need to have everything done by then. I'm curious why you're applying in July. Is the supplemental essay as time consuming as the personal statement? Not altogether, Sai. Here's what I would say. I think that like your personal, in terms of all your essay writing work, I think your personal statement is going to take you whatever, 5 to 12 drafts, depending on how many drafts you want to do. And I think that let me put it this way. In the pie chart of how much essay time, I think your personal statement is going to take you half, and I think your supplements are going to take you the other half. Does that make sense? So it's not like one supplement. Sometimes students work more on a supplement. No, I think usually it kind of splits out that way. Personal statement's about half. But once you finish your personal statement, it's like good to go. Then I think you're halfway there. How do colleges track demonstrated interest, and how can we make sure we know that how they know we are demonstrating interest? So Ava, there's a whole, if you Google demonstrated interest College Essay Guy, you'll see a whole guide to that walks you through. Let me just, I'm going to do this again. I know it's so weird. Like, why would he do this? Why would he Google stuff in front of us? But access, y'all. I want you to know that there's a thing that I created on this, and the way that you access it is the way that I access it. What is demonstrated interest? This is a how-to guide. So what is demonstrated interest? First of all, it's basically something that some colleges track when they're trying to figure out, if they let you in or not. And here I talk about what this is. You know what? I'll just throw this in the chat box. If you're super interested, you can just go down the rabbit hole. All right. I don't want you to feel like you have to track this, but if you want to know if a certain school, just Google, does Brown track demonstrated interest? And, you might learn that it doesn't. What you'll probably find is the school's common data set. So what you're looking for, here's the common data set for, this is basically a list of questions that each college answers. Most colleges answer, and they publish these. So if you find Loyola Marymount, LMU's common data set, this is what you're looking for, the level of applicants' interest. Do they count that? No, they do not consider that in their application process. So you don't need to demonstrate interest for LMU. Or they're telling you that they're not tracking demonstrated interest. This is going to sound really, I don't mean to scare you when I say this, but let me put it this way. If Bates College says they track demonstrated interest, then they track demonstrated interest. If LMU tells you that they don't consider demonstrated interest, they probably don't. But I would, you can follow up and ask them, because this is something that they would expect you to know. Because sometimes you might find a common data set that's a little bit out of date. Sometimes this changes for schools. I need to probably update this. But this is not to freak you out. Like, oh, you need to demonstrate interest. First of all, you're like wondering, well, what the heck is demonstrated interest? How do you do it? So one of the ways you can demonstrate interest is by applying early. And you need to really think this through. And there's a whole guide to, if you just Google early decision, early action college essay guy, to thinking through, should I apply early or not? But some simple things you can do is like get on the school's email list, and make sure that you get on the email list with the email that you're going to apply with, because they sync those. And then when you get an email from the school, click it. Click deep on the school's website. Spend some time like going through the link and click. I know that some schools track this stuff, y'all. We attend a college fair. We're going to do a virtual college fair in like a month. So stay on the email list. And you can basically go up, go to these schools and sign up, meet the reps. You can actually meet the reps. You might be able to, I'm not going to go through all these right now. These are some ways that you can track, that you can find out about demonstrated interest and demonstrate some interest if the school tracks it. How do you help a student who's a modest, quiet introvert write a strong personal statement? Candace, through all of the resources. So everything that, like the different techniques that I talked about on Tuesday. And if I don't talk too much about personal statement today, it's because I talked about it a little bit on Tuesday. So I'm going to keep it to mostly the other parts of the application. But Candace, like all the resources on the site, like the different, the different montage types, for example, that I talked about on Tuesday. And if you haven't watched that session, go back and watch it. Will apply to a modest, quiet introvert like yourself, or like if you're asking for a friend. If you don't volunteer or play sports or music, it's all good. What do you do, Isabella? And what are you into? You can show that off in your personal statement. Is it possible to have too many activities or things to avoid? No, I wouldn't say too many, but I would say pick your top 10. You don't have to list all 10, because the average student, by the way, doesn't list 10 activities. They list like 5. This was from the Common Apps presentation like 4 years ago. So don't feel stressed that you have to fill it with all the activities. List the most important ones to you. And if you are an all-star, Priyanka, where you like have so many activities and you want to put some extra ones in the additional info, then you can. But I don't know. I don't think you're going to scare colleges away. Colleges have seen students apply with 2 activities and get into great schools, and 10 activities and get into great schools. Does it look bad if we have a niche, like if our activities are centered around a common topic? No, that's great. In our activities, how do we show our specific interests while also demonstrating well-roundedness? So one of the ways you can do that is through the way that you talk about your activities. So again, that values list where you're demonstrating, the different responsibilities that you've had, for example, can demonstrate. So let's say, for example, you're writing about the art history club, but you're also writing about debate. Like the way that you choose to describe those is going to demonstrate what you did, and that's going to tell us what you're good at, right? Ooh, big picture question. To what extent and when is well-roundedness useful? How important is well-roundedness? I mean, I'm going to give a general answer, but well-rounded students get into great colleges, and students who are well-pointed get into great colleges. But I wouldn't try to game this too much. Like, in other words, don't obsess over like, am I well-rounded or not? Like, you basically want to emphasize the parts of you that are you feel like would demonstrate your skills, qualities, values, and interests in the most dynamic way possible. And I know that sounds like a super general answer, and like how to do that is like my 8-week pay what you can course. Sorry, I'm not trying to make this a commercial. I'm just thinking that like I have so much to say on this. To what extent and when is well-roundedness useful? Parties. I mean, again, like you're going to get, you can get into great schools whether you were either, I wouldn't obsess over it too much. That's what I got. About additional info. Why is it 150 words? It's not. It's 650 words. Is there a recommended minimum number of activities? No. Is it okay not to use additional info section? Yes. Is going test optional red flag? No. When my students that I interviewed last week who got into Williams and Stanford and all these other schools didn't submit their test scores. So you're okay, Lior. And glad to see you again. I hope you take the course. I'm glad you're here another day. Anushka, I think you were here before too. If we write about how a family member is sick, will colleges look at it like an excuse? It depends on how you talk about it, Anushka. So give me not just what was the challenge, but how did it impact you personally? What did you do about it? And what did you learn through the experience? If you're just like, yeah, my dad was sick and it really sucked, and you just complain about it, then yeah, it could look like an excuse. Or if you're like, my dad was sick and so that's why I got a bad grade on physics, in my physics class, then it's like, so give us some context, and again, you can do this in bullet points. You can do this in additional info. Well, colleges ask for proof if I say that I did sports outside of school. Well, did you do sports outside of school? Sometimes colleges audit applications. So I want to scare y'all just a little bit. So be truthful. I'm not saying that you're not, Jennifer, but sometimes they do ask. All right, I'll just put it that way. Does the additional info, I answered that. Can you talk about your activities in your personal statement as well? For sure, Neil. Like, yeah, weave them in. That's part of the fun job of how to figure out how to write a personal statement that like demonstrates your core values. But see if you can connect those activities again to your core values. Are there any topics that we look bad if we put in the additional info section? Probably, but maybe Isu, give me some, and it's good to see you again too. Give me some examples of, I don't know what other topics you're talking about. Yes, probably, like if you stole something or if you like set something on fire and you like just put that in your additional info, but like give me examples if you're thinking of something. As an international student, would I explain grading system? Yeah, Francois. So first of all, your counselor is hopefully doing that in their counselor letter, and they also have a counselor profile. So make sure you can actually ask your counselor, hey, is our school profile up to date? And if you're not sure how to do that, I get to unveil this right now. Okay, International Hub. I'm going to do this right now, actually. We haven't even like told people about this yet. This is so exciting. I'm going to do this right now. Okay, if you are an international student, here you go. Boom. Check out that link, Francois. Yeah, okay, I'm going to show this to y'all. So we just put this together. I got to give a shout out to Kristen Karovic for putting this together. But this is like your international student hub. This is like the college application hub for international students. So when it comes to developing a great college list, when applying to schools outside the US, we also cover that. But like one of the things you're like, Ethan's talking about a school profile. Like, what is that? Like, oh wait, it's not even in here yet. Will you make sure, Ashley, that we put the school profile post in here? There's just a ton of stuff in here for international students. So I strongly recommend checking that out. And there will be a thing, if it's not there today, it'll be there by tomorrow, the school profile post. So check it out. There's pretty much all the things. Let's see what else. And yes, if you want to explain your grading system because it's not in your school profile, you can put it there. Yeah, there you go. Cool. I'm excited. Yay for international students. Can we start new extracurriculars summer before senior year? Yeah, you could. Can we add a link to our LinkedIn account in the additional info? Yes. The chances that they'll click it are like the click-throughs on additional info section are worse than my email list. Our email list is like 35%, which is pretty good. But I mean, you probably got like a 1 in 10 shot of them clicking it, to be honest, unless you give like a really cool short description. Is the COVID section required or optional? It's optional. When should we not use the COVID info section? If you don't really have much to say. If working out and going to the gym takes up a large amount of time, could I put in our extracurriculars even if it's not a traditional activity? Yeah, Sarah, for sure. Can your COVID section repeat details from your personal statement? Yeah, but try to separate them. Try to make sure that it's not too repetitive. That's part of the whole thing, is like make sure that each element of your application is revealing some different side of you. Can I make the COVID essay bullet points? Yes. Many internships have been canceled. Does not having internships look bad on the application? No, it's not. They're not looking at what you don't have. They're looking at what you do have. And if you're at that level, Sumi, I want to encourage you to make sure you broaden your school list. I'm just going to make a guess that, Sumi, you're applying to some highly selective schools if you're asking that question. So I want to encourage you, Sumi in particular, to apply to a wide range of schools. Make sure you have some good, solid schools that you can probably get into. Where would you include a research paper? Additional info. What do you think about the Common App versus the Coalition app? I would pick one. Pick Common App or Coalition app, okay? And just go go with the one that you're using the most. You don't, it's an extra thing that you have to fill out. So in schools don't care. Will it be an advantage if I submit my test scores? If they're awesome. Do you have any resources about Questbridge essays? Yes. Any essay, let me know what essay that you're looking for. Google it, and it's going to be on my website. I should probably, you know what that makes me think? Ashley, will you ping Alex that we should put up a Questbridge resource? Because students are probably Googling how to write Questbridge essays. And what they need to know is that pretty much their personal statement's going to work. So Annie, your personal statement that you work on is going to work for this. And the supplemental essays that you'll write for these schools are going to work for Questbridge. So search for the specific school essay that you're looking for. When writing your activities list, how should we decide the order? Does it matter? Yeah, put the most important ones at the top because they're skimming. So the ones that you want them to catch, get those at the top. Can you talk about supplemental essays? Sure. What do you want to know? Ask me anything you want. What if you can't attend some days for the Pay What You Can program? Will we get in trouble? No. Just come whenever you can. Who comes is. Okay. So I thought COVID essays could have a positive spin if you weren't too negative impact. Yeah, it's fine. You can take a positive spin. If someone in your family had a large health issue, but it didn't affect your schoolwork, could you add that to the additional info section? Would it seem too braggy? Are you bragging that your family had a large health issue? I would say put it in there, Ellie, if it impacted you. If it didn't impact you, then I guess I would wonder, how does that give the reader a sense of the big picture, the skills, qualities, values, and interests that you're going to bring with you to a college campus? You know what I'm saying? Remember, it's that whenever you're wondering, should I put this in? Does it contribute does it give a sense of the skills, qualities, values, and interests that I'm going to bring with me to the college campus? If your parent had a health issue, so connect the dots. What impact did it have? What did you do about it? What did you learn? What's the best way to find scholarships? And when should we start applying to them? Guess what I'm going to do? Watch this. You're going to get mad at me for doing this. You're going to be like, come on, Ethan, you're not really going to do this again, are you? Yes, I am. Watch this. Scholarships, college essay guy. How to write a scholarship essay. Check it out. So here's where to find scholarships. I like Going Merry, their site. Here are the top 10 most common scholarship essay prompts. All right here. And then I wrote a guide. First of all, you want to create a tracker to organize yourself. This is like a downloadable scholarship tracker. Ashley, sorry, I'm giving you a lot to do. Will you tell Alex to make sure that this opens, or will you just make changing this so that it opens in a separate tab? Thanks. This scholarship tracker link. Okay. So then underneath this, I basically walk through how to write the top 10 different scholarship prompts. There's look at this guide. It goes on and on and on and on. It's super long. Okay. So there's your guide to writing a scholarship essay. And how did I find it? I just literally Googled scholarships college essay guy. I'm not trying to make myself indispensable. Oh, wait, I am trying to make myself indispensable. Will what we do in the summer classes with you work for applying to out-of-state schools? Of course, Cheyenne. It's going to work for all the schools. It's going to work for hundreds and hundreds of schools. Yes, totally. I'm doing a personal research project and creating a product. Awesome. It's not quite an extracurricular activity, so I don't think I can put it in that section. You can. Should I put in the additional info? Or you can put in the additional info. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, just put it wherever it makes sense, Shreya, and it should be good. Does mentioning a learning disability make me look bad? No. What kind of people would the colleges be if that made you look bad? No. But give us a sense, again, Aya, of how it impacted you. So I'm just going to write this in the chat box because this answers a lot of your questions. With a lot of this additional info stuff, if it's a challenge, put 1, what was the challenge? 2, what were the effects on you? 3, what I did about it. And then 4, what I learned, which is going to be your values, right? Cool. I'm going to see if I can break a record for questions answered on a session. I should get in the Guinness Book of World Records for that. We should. I'm not going to make you do that, Ashley. Will you write me an email so I will look it up for what is the world record for most college admission questions? That would be a fun webinar. I'm going to answer as many college admission questions as possible in a future webinar. Maybe I'll do it on the course. That would be fun. Let's do that. Email me and remind me of that. Thanks, Ashley. Sorry. All right. What are your thoughts on international students having an application plan of go big or stay home? I mean, it is what it is, right? Like, it depends what go big means too. Do you mean like go Stanford or not, or stay home? Joseph, it depends on so many things. Like, what is your financial situation? What do you want to study? I don't think I can answer without knowing more about you. I don't think it's like a quote unquote bad way to go, but just know that there are so many awesome schools in the US that would love for you to be there. It's just a matter of expanding your list. Okay. And again, we'll do a future session on this, on how to actually create your list. What if you're not a super kid, haven't saved the world, gotten a patent, just done normal stuff, and are a bit of an introvert? It's totally fine, Claire. I mean, there's awesome, like, students who haven't saved the world, gotten a patent, or just done normal stuff, get into great colleges every year, all the time. It just takes a little bit of time sometimes to figure out what is that part of you that you want to focus on, or those parts of you that you want to focus on. So you're going to be fine. All the exercises and the resources, they're all still going to apply to you. And have, like, just know that you're going to get in somewhere. Like, I mean, if you expand your college list, if you're not just applying to highly selective schools, or as Akil Bello says, highly rejective schools. So you're going to be fine. Like, it's just expand your list. That, by the way, if you want to reduce stress, who was the person who asked early on, was Isabella? What? Was it the same person? No, it was Isabella. Okay. Isabella was like, how do I reduce stress? Expand your college list. Have 2 or 3 schools that you know you can get into that you really like. And that's going to help you reduce stress in this process. For the additional info section, can we include significant middle school awards? I mean, if it's like a huge one, like I was a ping pong champion at age 12 in the whole country, then maybe you'd be judicious. Mithra, how can we connect with specific faculty to show demonstrated interest? Is emailing enough? Yeah, emailing works. I have CP. Should I emphasize my disability impacts or minimize? Can it help me? I mean, think about so here's what I'll say, Isabella. Again, same answer. Challenges, effects, what did you do about it, and what did you learn? There's an exercise called the feelings and needs exercise, which I'm not going to get into right now, but if you Google the feelings and needs exercise and work through that exercise, in about 20 minutes, you'll have a sense of is this something that you might want to write about in your application somewhere. But I mean, if it's a big part of your life, then put it in there somewhere. The question is, like, is it your personal statement, or do you write your personal statement on something else? And do you put that into like the additional info section? So again, don't focus on like, I wouldn't say like, is it going to help me or hurt me? But like, if it's part of who you are and it's a big part of who you are, then to not include it, we'd be missing maybe some part of Isabella. I'm just guessing. Okay. Right. So like, clone yourself. This is a good test. Clone yourself. The Isabella who applies and doesn't mention having CP, and then the Isabella who applies that does mention it. So it doesn't have to be like, it's a matter of degrees, right? So like, mentions it in a particular way might be the way to go, is my sense. How many core values should we show? 17 and a half, Santiago. No, I mean, what do you mean? How many core values should we show? In your personal statement, I would say you're probably going to demonstrate, I'm just going to throw a number out there because this is usually about how many that students tend to focus on as major themes in their essay, but it's like 4 to 7. But throughout your whole application, let me show you a quick example. One of the things we're going to do is do a value scan. So when you're done with your application, when you're trying to, it's not coming up. Here's the short version because I couldn't find the Google Doc in 2 minutes, but you should probably have lots and lots of values because in that activities list we looked at, there were like 4 values in just one activity. So think about that, multiply that times 10 activities or 8 activities. You've got 30 or 40 values just in the activities list. So you don't need to squish 6 values into each activity, but you're probably gonna have a bunch. Is there ever a situation when being a follower is better than a leader? You tell me, Justin, and tell me the situation in which that was true. Because I'd love to read about that in a personal statement or in an essay. I think you know the answer. Can I start working on my personal statement before I've developed my college list? Yes. Or should I focus on my college list first? Your college list is going to be important, Noah, before you start writing your supplements, because it's going to help you it's going to help you save time, basically. So if you're doing the thing with me this summer, like you've got like the next month to work on your list, but no, you can totally start on your personal statement before, because you don't need to like direct your personal statement at a particular school necessarily. Your personal statement is going to be about you, and it's going to apply to lots of schools. Will international students be disadvantaged if we apply for financial aid? Yes. Yes. I mean, there's a short answer to that. But you're talking about Ivy League universities. It's hard to get in if you are an international student applying for financial aid. But all is not lost. That link that I posted, Paul, has got all the resources for you. And again, I'm going to encourage you to expand your list. And there are so many colleges around the world that want you that don't, cost $80,000 a year. How do I know which colleges will offer academic scholarships? You can, the scholarships guide is going to help you with that, because I also have podcasts related to that. You can also Google scholarships. Let me just show you where it is. Actually, will you throw in the Jeff Levy and Jenny Kent podcasts to the chat box? Because that's got stuff on financial aid. Any info on fee waivers for international students? Just Google fee waivers college essay guy, and there's a whole post on how to apply for those. And also the hub that we shared. Does a college application just consist of a personal statement, activities, a supplemental essay, and additional info? Yeah, pretty much. Well, I mean, there are other things like your teacher recommendations and your, the school profile, and there are all these other elements, which, if you've any of those things, you can just basically Google, and there's a little guide that I put together on it. But in terms of the written parts, the things that you can have, some serious control over, it's the things that you mentioned, Justin. How early do we need to start demonstrating interest? This summer is a good time. Is a podcast, YouTube channel, Instagram, or blog count as an extracurricular activity? Totally. Yeah. You want to throw it in the chat, get some followers? Many internships are canceled due to the pandemic. Okay, we answered that one. Do colleges look at service hours? Yes. What's the best way to highlight work experience? You can do it in a supplemental essay, or you can do it in your activities list. Oh my gosh, there's so many questions. I'm not going to get to all of them. I'm sorry, y'all. We got like 1 minute. So I'm going to do like 2 more. What is the best way to highlight work experience? So you could do it in a supplemental essay. So it could become a super topic, Kate, which is like an essay that you write that's particular for, like, you find 3 prompts that seem like you could maybe overlap. And you could, let's say you work at, I don't know where you work, but let's say you work at I worked at a video store. That's kind of old school. We don't have video stores anymore. Let's say you work at, let me try and guess where you work. You work at a restaurant. So maybe not because of the pandemic. Let's say you work in an animal shelter, which maybe happens sometimes during the pandemic. So is the work at the animal shelter something, is that work something that could potentially work for multiple different supplemental essay prompts? Because if so, if you can brainstorm how that essay could work for those prompts, that would be a great way to highlight a work experience. Or you can put in your activities list if the school you're applying to doesn't have supplemental essays. All right, 2 more questions. What's the minimum number of colleges you should apply to? Kira, I want to say like 8, because if you're applying to like 3, unless you're sure you're going to get into those, it's just so darn unpredictable these days. So I would say 8. And if you are a low-income student, you can get fee waivers. College essay guy, fee waivers, and you'll see a whole post on that. Last one. How can we manage all the essays without stressing out? Jocelyn, I got you. I already answered this one. It's creating your supplemental essay tracker. Okay. It's week 1 of the, sorry, I know this sounded like I apologize. There's so many times I referred to the course. I did not mean to do that on this session. I swear. I wanted to mention it once, but this essay tracker is a simple way to do that. You basically need to put all of your essay prompts. First, you need to develop your list, and then put all of your essay prompts on one column, right? And then brainstorm what are the topics that you're going to be like your main topics. Okay. I'm going to do one more question. That's like that's the bad side. It's like, oh, I can do one more. I can do one more. I'm trying to pick one that let's see, that I haven't answered yet. How important okay, here's another one. How critical are teacher and guidance counselor recommendations to your applications? I'd say they're important. I mean, they're like right under essays in terms of what colleges consider important, in terms of like survey done of colleges over the last few years. It's like, grades, and, it used to be test scores, but not so much anymore. So it's like grades and how hard your courses were. And then it's like, essays are pretty important. And then extracurricular activities. Don't take my word for it. You can Google this on, let me just show you real quick. Guess what I'm Googling? Teacher recommendation college essay guy, right? Here's a quick guide to how to ask for a teacher recommendation letter. And it's the last one, and then we'll call it a day. We'll call it a DZ. How to ask for a letter of recommendation. So here we go. Here's how important they are. And this is based on fall 2017. So heads up, it's not now. But, grades were important. And this is, by the way, 74% of colleges said that grades in all courses are of considerable importance. Now, this is old. So like admission test scores, not so much. If they ask them now, this is going to super change. Essay or writing sample, 23% of colleges said that those are super important. 33% said they're moderately important. 19% of schools said essays aren't important. The Cal State schools don't look at essays for the application. They look at them for other things, sometimes scholarships. But look, demonstrated interest comes next, and then it's your counselor and teacher recommendations. So in this guide, it basically shows you, who to ask, how to ask, like what information can you equip them with, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll throw that in the chat box. But you can just Google it. All right. Thanks, y'all. But that was a lot. That was a lot. We did good, y'all. We did good. Thanks for all your questions. I appreciate you. And yeah, you're so welcome. You're making me sweat with these questions. Ashley, you crushed it. Thanks for being here and for all your support. You crushed it. So I hope to see some of y'all. We're starting the course in, what is it, like 10 days, 11 days? And it's fun. It's kind of like this. We get lots done, and we make some jokes. And yeah, good. I'm glad it was helpful. And if whatever you need, just Google college essay guy, and it's probably there. So, all right. Appreciate y'all. Have an awesome, awesome rest of your week and a blessed weekend. And